The question that I really had is, I read your book, The Time Crunch Cyclist, and I thought it was phenomenal. The question that I would have for this, I guess, for somebody who really doesn't have a whole lot of time to get out on the road and ride, but doesn't want to be dropped every single time by the group ride, what kind of training works best if you're really limited in your time, whether it be indoors or outdoors?
Pretty much, that's essentially exactly the scenario that we wrote the Time Crunch Cyclist for. That high-intensity interval training provides you basically the biggest bang for your buck in terms of the impact that you can have on your cycling fitness per minute of training time. What the research has shown is that high intensity interval training basically can pull up on the VO2 end of the energy system spectrum, and lactate threshold power and aerobic fitness come up with them. It's sort of I think I put in the book something like a rising tide lifts all ships. So if you would only do sort of the classic endurance training model of, we'll do some base training and some lactate threshold training in such limited time, there's not enough workload in a program like that to generate any adaptation. So the only way in a very limited time to get enough workload to get the adaptation you're looking for is to go harder. And the risk there is that people who have a lot more time will say, oh, more is better. Everybody goes really hard. And that's where it gets a little bit hazy. People who have 10, 12, 15 hours to train, they can't go as hard as you can in 6. And if they do, they just drive themselves into the ground. It's the way that the opportunity that I think is available to really time-limited athletes is that you have the opportunity to utilize high-intensity training methods that the local Cat 2 can't use. It doesn't work for him, but it can work very well for you.
I guess a follow-up to that question also would be, if your goal is to kind of increase your power, increase your wattage, are you going to get more of an increase out of more of that interval type training than you would out of if you did have a lot of hours and you were just doing more steady state type rides?
The difference is you can get the power increase in both ways. The biggest difference is going to be how long you can maintain high-end performance as a result. So if you have a lot of time to train and you are on a higher volume training program, that lactate threshold power is sustainable for longer. So you might have a good power and you're able to apply it or utilize it for 70-mile, 80-mile rides, or you can start riding really strong in April and continue riding really strong all the way through August and September, where the time crunch athlete can gain that amount of power. But you're starting every ride with fewer matches. You're starting the season with a shorter window in which to use that power and be really good. Sort of the value proposition that we put into the Time Crunch Cyclist was, if you don't have a lot of training time, you can either be mediocre year round, or we'll give you a few times a year where there's a 4 to 6 week period where you can be really good. And you look at the way a lot of us race, it's local criterium series. There are 4 weeks where there happen to be 6 races or something like that, or it's a cyclocross season in the fall. That's how regionally, that's how we race. Yet, when you take a step back and look at classic endurance training programs, we were training people as if they were going to race the Tour de France next week. The way we actually race and the kind of training we were doing, there's a disconnect there once you start realizing that most people don't race week in and week out from February to October.